1966 premiership. So a special day for the boys, for the blokes who played in that. Coached by Dicko Bree, Uriah defeated Seymour by 27 points at Alexandra. Some of the players included Don Ross, Mick Browen, Don Mills, Eddie Charman, Mick Hill, Ray Day, Tom Wood and Dozer Kubel. They were some of the names I noticed. And Ray Day kicked 3 goals. Is that right, Ray? I can't remember. So they won their 4th consecutive seconds premiership, which was fantastic. I'll now introduce our special guest today, someone who's got a huge football resume, so I'll just go through it a bit. His name's John Tossol. He coached Uriah in 1994 and 95. This is as long as your arm, this resume. He went to Assumption College in his last few years of high school. 1981-82 he was recruited to Melbourne Football Club. He played 2 games in 1981, kicked 3 goals on debut. He went over to the West in 1983-84 to Subiaco. He came back home east and played at Shep Swans in 1985 rather. He won the best and fairest. From 1986 to 89 he was at Alexandra, and he coached in 86, 88 and 89. He coached the 1988 premiership. He won the league medal 3 times while he was there in the Tungawar League. And then in 1994 he came and coached Uriah. He won our best and fairest in 1994. Was here in 94 and 95. Followed on, went back home to Thornton Eildon. He won another best and fairest, and then in 2000 he won a premiership with Alexandra. So a huge football career. So I'd like to welcome John up to the front here, and we'll have a bit of a word with him.
Thank you, Matt.
Can you hear that?
Can you hear that?
I think we're right. Okay, John, thanks so much for coming and joining us today. So we're going to go through a few things with you. So first thing I want to ask you, looking back at your football career, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think back to all those years?
I was brought up in a footy family, 5 kids. My father played a lot of football in the Rangi North East against the likes of Uriah. Yeah. And we just followed him. We were at every training session. In those days we didn't have much money, it's a young family. Just sort of give you an idea that we couldn't afford footy boots. So we had to wait until the local second-hand shop had a drop of boots. And that's the only time we could get a pair of boots. And but it taught us, that appreciate things, little things. But we just lived and breathed footy and cricket. And that sort of set the pattern for my football career. I was lucky to go to Kilmore, and then from Kilmore to Melbourne. And Melbourne was an interesting time for a young bloke, 17, 18. If I had my time over again, I would have done it a lot differently, but you can't put an old head on young shoulders. Was at a time when Brass was coaching and Ray Jordan was coaching. In Melbourne, I thought we had a really good team of young blokes in that era, but however, we didn't really gel too well with Barras. We were pretty well frightened of him. He had such an aura. But I learned a few lessons along the way there in terms of how to treat people, in terms of what I experienced in parts of Melbourne. It wasn't an enjoyable one, to be frank. We lost the fun of playing footy, and what I learned from that was in my coaching career is to make sure that for anyone playing the game, make sure they enjoy it, because if you don't, there's no point doing it.
Very good point, John. Now, your debut, you actually kicked 3 goals. So can you tell us a little bit about your first game? Must have been pretty exciting, running out at MCG to play your first AFL game.
It was quite surreal. It's all you ever wanted to do as a young boy was to play AFL footy, and I got my chance. So I was fortunate that I had 22 touches and kicked 3 goals. So everything went my way. But after that, my career stalled. I had a lot of injury. And when you're playing at that level, it is a brutal industry in that it's a numbers game. And fortunately, as I said, injuries robbed me of maybe a further career. But what it allowed me to do was get into country footy, which I enjoyed.
After you left Melbourne, before you came back to the Golden Valley, you went over to Perth. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, went over to Perth. I was cut from the Melbourne Football Club, and what happens when you're a young fellow, all you think about is having a career. You don't think about what ifs. What happens if you don't play the game anymore and they cut you from the list? I didn't have a plan B. I didn't have a job. I had no money. Quite dispirited. So I went over to Subiaco and didn't have a pre-season, no job and no money. What could go wrong? So I only stayed there a short while, and to be frank, again, if I had my time again, I would have done it completely differently. I didn't do myself any favours by going there. And Perth's a beautiful city. I played with Subiaco, great team. If I had stuck around, they won Subiaco won the grand final the next year. So again, I learned a valuable lesson there. I just needed to put in the effort and the work. Again, you can't put the young head on an old head on young shoulders.
That's spot on. After a couple of years over in Perth, you came back and you can go back to Alex, came and played at one of our rivals in Shepherd and Swans. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
That was my first introduction to GB footy. I really loved it. The Swans are quite similar to the Royal Football Club in my mind. They're a well-grounded club. They love their footy. It's a working class place, and I've got strong friendships at the Shep Swans just as much as I had at Euroa. And that's one thing I like about the Euroa Footy Club. It's been over 30 years since I coached here, yet the friendships that I was able to create still endure to this day. And I just love coming through those gates. Come to the ground, you look around, the picturesque setting. It is just a joyous place to come to, and I'm very grateful that Euroa Football Club gave me the opportunity. So I'm ever grateful for that.
John, just when you're at Swans, can you tell us about, are there any Euroa opponents you can remember back in those days? Because I think there might be a few here.
Oh, there's a few. You'll have to swear. I remember when I coached my first year, Spanner, Gavin Williams was our captain, and he said to me, you know what, I absolutely effing hated you when you were at the Swans. I didn't think I was that kind of person, Spanner. But I looked around, I was fortunate, the people that I was involved with at that time, a lot of young boys, and I get asked, do you have a favourite player? Who stood out? But to me, they basically were like my own children. They're all my boys. I didn't have a favourite, but what they were, in a time where we struggled, they just gave me effort. And I can't ask any more. They were fantastic. And hopefully I've made them better players and hopefully even better people, because I still see them here today. And if you can be in the footy industry or keep a player involved as a player, spectator, or someone on the committee for the next 30 years, then I think as a coach you've done your job. And that's the way I look at it. And I look around here, the same people that I coached 30 years ago are still here today. And that's one of the joys I get when I come from where I live over at Thornton and come over here, knowing I'll run into those people. And there's even quite a lot of old timers who played in my father's era. I ran into Boxer Brodie before, and they're always there to support me. Tony Brodie, Donnie Mills, Graham, the wonderful manager at the time. There's just so many people. I know there's a few more that I've maybe overlooked, but and Pearso, they come up, shake my hand, and it's as if nothing's changed. So I'm eternally grateful for the Euroa Football Club for the opportunities that they've given me, but also the friendships that I've created. And I've been very fortunate. My son played a couple of years ago, which I was pleased, and he still loves the Earl club, so something's rubbed off there as well.
Fantastic. John, it just made me think, when you did come across to your older coach, being the Alex and Thornton Eldham, the old boys, and your dad was one of them, how did they cope? Or what was their reaction when you said you were going to coach your role?
It's interesting. I think it's the key to hear or think what your old people will think of what I'm about to say, but I'm going to give you an understanding of what other teams in the Rangiora North East who are outside the Aroa bubble, they hated you. I couldn't believe the amount of displeasure that they used to have for the Aroa Footy Club. But I think it was more that because Aroa was successful and they did it so consistently through the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, everyone wanted to be like you. You always beat them. So I'd be in discussions with my father and his friends who played with footy with with Thornton at the time. And they're still got to be in their bonnet about losing a grand final. I think they're Thornton Ruckman full forward, Mick Webster took the mark in the goal square, played on. I think the ball was taken away by a Royal player and they won the game when the ball went down the other end. They are still smarting about that. And then there's probably one of the great blokes I've got to know over here who took on a mythical figure over and towards Alex and Thornton was Dick O'Brien. I don't know what Dick did to the Alex blokes, but they hated him, I'll tell you. Normally States might have a bit to say about that. But I was fortunate to get to know Dick in my time here. I found him to be the most wonderful, gentle person who took the time to come and sit down with me, chat. I was just in awe of the man. That's the way they thought of him over in Alex and Thornton. He was a spiritual leader who took the Earl to do amazing things, and I'm very grateful that I got to know him in his later years. And as I said, we had wonderful, wonderful chats.
Just thinking back, when you coached Uriah, what memorable characters do you remember around the time? And not just players, but people around the club.
Again, it's an interesting question you ask. You know, who were the memorable people? Probably I've got to be thankful for when I took on the position at Uriah, I wasn't even considering it until it was offered to me. And when I got involved with the club, Mick Williams, wonderful leader of men, great administrator, had an enormous amount of time for him. And the true test of a footy club in my mind is when you're struggling, how you can treat people, not turn on them, because that's the easy thing to do. But no, my time at Uriah, at a time where we had a very young team, and we struggled, but there was a lot of effort. I had the whole support of the Uriah Football Club, and that is very, very rare in this environment. You said when you're struggling, it's easy to all of a sudden be seen to be not doing the right thing, or someone may have it in for you. But I felt the wonderful support of Mick Williams and his committee at that time. And again, I'm very grateful for that. But answering your question, I think I said it before, who was the people that mattered? Well, they're all my children. All the players, they all had their own different personalities. They turned up to training with a smile. They played their games hard. And I think all of them have turned out to be pretty good boys. And again, it's very hard to pick one or two out. I think it'd be unfair for me to say that. But I'm just grateful again. It's like a village, a tribe, the Uriah Footy Club, and I'm just fortunate to be part of that tribe.
Yeah, as we all are. That's spot on. After you coached at Uriah, you went back to Thornton Eldham, and then later on Alexandra. You played the premiership at Alexandra in 2000. I was just telling you before, man. Myself and Fred Cameron went over to watch that. It was the day before we were playing. Did you play after that? And if not?
No, not too much. I was nearly 40 at that stage. It's a young man's game, I can tell you, but I don't remember much of that 2000 grand final. I got cleaned up and just remember being in the club rooms and not much else. So, but Yeah, when you're playing at that age, you've got to do a lot of work to get up to play. You've got to be so well prepared. As I said, it's a young man's game.
It certainly is. I'm going to finish off with some just a few questions, and I want you to give us a pretty short, either one word or a pretty short answer. So, first one off, the best player you played with.
Oh, that's a tough one. Gee. Well, I tell you, there's an unknown bloke, probably the best player I played with. Again, that's an unfair question because
It is.
there's so many good players that I had the good fortune. Look, there's probably a fella that you would never have heard of. He played for Alexandra, a bloke by the name of Peter McKenzie, who was the most extraordinarily gifted talent I've ever seen. Sadly, he didn't get to play at the highest level, but it just shows you every club has a player out there that could have been something very special. And there's another fella I played against that you may not have heard of. Peter Bennett, his name is. They played with Hawthorn, but he also played with a place called Jedbrook, and he was an extraordinary player who played at the highest level, and the next year went to Jedbrook. Again, a sort of fella that you'd never ever hear of or heard of, but just totally spectacular. And again, fortunate enough to play with him interleague level but play against him. He was just an extraordinary player.
Rightio. Toughest opponent.
See, that's another. I've never really given much thought to that. Let me see. I'll come back to you on that one. As I said, there's so many good players out there.
All right. Best coach you had?
Tommy Connors from the Sheps Swans. Ahead of his time in my mind. He was pretty special. He was able to get the best out of me.
One of my favourite topics, Ron Barassi, in a short couple of words.
Intense.
Your favourite country footy ground?
Oh, gee, it's hard to go past the old footy ground. The only place that resembles this, ironically, is Princes Park at Shepparton. This is one of the most iconic grounds I think you'd ever find in country Victoria. Every time I come here, the ground's the same. You see those magnificent eucalypts across behind the scoreboard. Some of those trees would have to be, 300 or 400 years old plus. It doesn't change. Like I said, it's just a great environment. Love it.
It is. It's beautiful. Who's your most underrated teammate?
I played with a fellow who may not be known to you. Some of you may know him. A bloke I played with that Alex, called John Wallace. He should have played GB footy, but he chose not to. He played with Melbourne, played a few games with Melbourne. Went to Dandenong when the VFA was very strong, and he won a best and fairest there. Wonderful person, great footballer. He's the sort of bloke who get the first kick of the game and then the last kick of the game. Underrated, but just gave a wonderful consistency over a great career. Now, you may not be aware of these sort of people, but he certainly he made an impression on me. Again, apart from being a good footballer, he's a better person.
Now, I'm not going to do a Sam Payne and ask your favourite colour. So I'll go to the last, just to finish off one. What's a message that you'd like to give to the younger players at our club today?
If I was to go next door and address them after the game and had that opportunity, I would say play every game as if it's your last. When you're a young bloke playing footy, you think it's like why they send young blokes to war. You're 10 foot tall and bulletproof. Nothing's ever going to happen to you. But your footy life goes so quickly. Enjoy every game. Train as if it's your last game, and play and train with a smile. If you do that, you will enjoy every minute of it, and your career will be worthwhile. And it doesn't matter whether you're 10-year-old or 40-year-old, you must keep the love of the game. The love of the game is what brings us all here. And that's why we're here, because we love it. We feel it, we touch it, we created friendships, and that's the beauty of footy. what we've got, well, footy to me is now the new church. They come here on a Saturday or a Sunday, all different ages, male, female, and it's their safe place. And I think that's one of the good things about footy clubs. When you're involved with it, you become part of the tribe. So love the game. If you love the game, you will do amazing things. Well, that's what I think anyway.
That's a fantastic way to finish, John. John Tossol, thanks very much for sharing these stories with us, your insights into the game and your history playing the game and coaching in the game. I see you here every year. We know you love coming back to your eye every single year. And I hope everyone here has enjoyed listening to John. Thank you.
Just in closing, I'm just saying, as I said, I'm very fortunate that my family is indebted to the Ural Football Club. They've been great to me, and this is like a second home. So I'll still be coming here, hopefully here in 1 year, 20 years, and still get as much joy as I come through the gates as what I did when I played 30 years ago. But it is a special place, and I'm very lucky to be part of it. Thanks for inviting me here today.
Thanks, John. Everyone, just enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks again for coming. Yeah, we wish you all the best. Thank you.
Take some food, there's plenty of food.